What's going on? My name is Aaron, and today I want to talk about the Assemblies of God history and some of the stuff that I've learned in this class. And there's a lot of information that I learned, and I couldn't possibly go over all of it. And so I really today just want to focus on two things that stuck out to me the most. I'm going to be talking about the foundations of the Assemblies of God and how it's rooted in the Pentecostal movement, and then the future of the AG as well, and how we as ministers can prepare for the future and make a difference. The Assemblies of God was sparked, and it came out of the Pentecostal charismatic movement of the 18 and 1900s. And as a result, the Assemblies of God is a Pentecostal denomination. And you may be asking yourself, well, what does that word mean? What is Pentecostal? Simply put, the idea of Pentecostalism is that we have access to the gifts of the Holy Spirit that we see within the book of Acts. Many denominations of the world today believe that the events that happened in Acts and everything that we see there is simply just descriptions of what happened in the early church. However, we as a Pentecostal denomination believe that this is a prescription of what can and what should take place within church services today. Many denominations do not agree with that. For example, speaking in tongues, the baptism of the Holy Spirit. But to truly define Pentecostalism would be challenging, because over the years there have been so many different branches and different beliefs and understandings of this movement. In fact, there's a book by William K. Kay called Pentecostalism, a very short introduction, where he talks about David Barrett and Todd Johnson, who categorized Pentecostalism into three distinct movements, three distinct waves. The first one being classical Pentecostalism. The second is charismatic renewal. And third is neo-charismatic. He states in chapter 8 of his book that each of these waves coexists within the others, influences them, and grows at its own pace. So in other words, there is not just one charismatic, one Pentecostal movement, but there are many different ones. They work together, and they may have slightly different understandings and beliefs, but they come together to form what is the Pentecostal denomination. Today, there are more than 500 million Pentecostals in the world, and the Assemblies of God is part of that movement. The Assemblies of God is the largest classical Pentecostal denomination, and it was founded in Hot Springs, Arkansas in 1914. And it's known as an evangelical Pentecostal organization, and it has a great emphasis on global missions, something that I truly think is so important. Part of why the reason why I love the AG so much. Actually, the commitment to missions is not just a stance that the AG has. It's something that's been drafted, it's been passed as a resolution for the organization for more than 100 years now, ever since the Second General Council. The resolution states this: as a council, we hereby express our gratitude to God for his great blessing upon the movement in the past. We are grateful to him for the results attending this movement forward, and we commit ourselves and the movement to him for the greatest evangelism that the world has ever seen. We pledge our hearty cooperation, prayers, and help to this end. So giving to missions, supporting missions, being involved in missions, that is part of the DNA of who the Assemblies of God is. And I believe that's part of the reason why the AG is still strong and moving forward today. From its very inception, the Assemblies of God has been focused on the future. We see that in the events of the General Councils and decisions that have been made. And we see that in so many AG initiatives and programs today, like Youth Alive. The Assemblies of God is working hard to reach future generations with the life-saving message of Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit that is still available for us today. And in this class, we read an article, Reaching into the Future Through Leadership That Blesses the Next Generation. The emphasis of this article, and what should be the emphasis of this church as a whole, is making disciples. From the very beginning, we see that God is not just interested in our personal success, but in the success of reaching and raising future generations. And the way that we do this is through three things. Number one, perspective. We have to understand that each person is God's and they are not our own. Number two is grace. focusing on progress instead of perfection. And finally, integrity. As we as ministers live a life of integrity, future generations see that and are hopefully empowered to do the same. I am so thankful for the many lessons that I learned in this class, and I hope that maybe you've learned something from this video as well. The Assemblies of God has more than 100 years of history so far, and I'm just honored. I'm very grateful that I get to be a small part in the legacy of the AG as God continues to bless and pour out his Spirit on this organization and use us for his glory.